We are live with the Pirate Broadcast. And as you know, we are here to highlight interesting people doing interesting things. And throughout the community of LinkedIn, and other online platforms we hang out at, there's this opportunity where we see a profile, but we may not necessarily see the face behind the profile. And today we have Jared in the room. He's becoming a pirate today. And I think, Jared, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, Russ. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you. I think is this your first live episode that you're on?
It is my first LinkedIn Live or live in for any fashion. Yes.
Oh, wow. So, man, welcome to the Pirate Broadcast. You're now officially a pirate.
Thank you. And Steve Sullivan would be very proud. I'm sure. I don't know if he's listening yet, but when he is, he'll be very proud.
It will be. Well, you know what? The interesting thing about LinkedIn versus some of these other platforms is that, number one, we need to use a third-party tool in order to stream to LinkedIn, which nothing inherently wrong with that. However, when I have the messages come through in that third-party tool, LinkedIn doesn't send the messages. So what I do is I go on my phone, and then I look at the messages and I return back so I can actually attempt to communicate. There's a delay, so it's not real time.
Okay.
However, that's some of the things that, like life, we just have challenges with, and we just have to adapt and work through them, right? It's like
sure.
Every challenge has an opportunity. So what are some of the things that you see with LinkedIn specifically in 2020, and what are some of the goals that you have? Because you're pretty active on LinkedIn, and you've done some really talented work. Making sure you're on the top of the list on Brenda Miller's rock star list, and Jeff Young and Brenda and
so many great people. Yeah,
so many amazing people, and I think it's really important for people to understand. It's like it takes a lot of time and effort to accomplish some of those goals, and it takes a little bit of strategy. So I kind of wanted to, just kind of take a view of how you think about things.
Yeah.
And maybe leave some nuggets of knowledge with the community here. So what do you thought?
I love that bit of an intro there. And it as you were saying it, I'm doing I'm trying to do the great thing where I listen, right, and not want to say something. But I found myself, wait, I could say that. I could say that. I could say that. I want to, and that's just it. It's actually, what's that?
It's endless, right?
It's endless. And honestly, it's my kryptonite, because it's the thing that I'm great at, but it also brings me, I don't know, it's what I struggle to get over sometimes. I do too much, and that is ideation, coming up with ideas. Case in point, headlines. I get to know somebody and I start thinking, oh, we should put this in there. We should put this in there. But it can be great. It's just that, you got to focus and you got to get your priorities and all that, which kind of goes back to some of the other things you were saying. Funny tangent. Let's start with this, I guess. With Brenda Miller's LinkedIn Rockstars list, when I first heard about it, showed up, whatever, I think I was added to the list. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was March of 2019. And somehow I got nominated, because that's how that works. And I was like, that's great. That's wonderful. And I took a look, and over the 1 week period, I think my follower growth had been 0.5% or 0.6%. And I thought, wow, I'm on the list. This is great. And I thought, wow, okay. I was in the 20s or 30s or something, or maybe even a lot lower than that probably. But, since then, one of the neatest things about this, and I've chatted with Brenda about it too, is that it got you to be aware. And it's not just about the views and the likes and all the vanity metrics of it, but it just got me to be thinking, how could I do better? How could I get people to be enjoying this more and therefore grow? It's not just hey, I got a bunch of likes, because great, you can get a bunch of likes and it's a flash in the pan. People move on.
Yeah.
It's that consistency. It's people knowing that you're there, that you're showing up, that you're adding value. I love to say that all the time. It's one of the ABCs. Always be contributing. Always be adding value. I love little mnemonics. ABC, always be contributing. So I'll throw a few of those out at you, I'm sure, throughout here. But it's just it got me to realize you need to consistently give value to show up, and it will come back in the form of, I think it's a great measurement, followers. Because the more people that are interested, they've got to go that extra hurdle to click follow. It's not just click like. Everybody can do a like. Most people do lurk. That's one of another little saying, a little post I came up with, and this kind of germinated last year. It's kind of a royal perspective, I'll call it. Okay. Content is king. Okay. You've got to have that, goes to the value statement, right? You've got to be adding value. You've got to be contributing. You can't just post something and expect it to go everywhere and expect it to help a million people. No, I mean, it takes careful, thoughtful consideration. It goes back to what you said earlier, Russ, the strategy. Content is king. Comments are queen. There's the engagement aspect of it, all that. Don't just be the joker who likes, or worse, the lurker who never makes it to court.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Yeah, I did a little meme. Every once in a while I'll post that, but it's just, content is king. You can have the best marketing in the world, but if you're not really adding any value or not providing a service, what good is it, right? It's that age old thing, right? But really with LinkedIn, it goes back to your other comment again. See, I'm all over the place, but I remember what you asked. What I see for LinkedIn, and I know I've seen it last year, is when it really kicked in. A LinkedIn executive even did a post on this, a blog, that engagement is everything. So the comments are queen comes from the idea that if you're posting something, let's say influencers, right? Capital I, influencers. They do that all the time. They're guilty of it. These people brag about, I spend 15 minutes on social media. Well, good for you. Let's see how well you do. Unless you're a Gary V, it's probably not going so well. You got to have that big name, that big following, and that's all you've got going for you. And of course, they've got good content, hopefully. But that engagement is key. The algorithms have definitely been tuned to that. It started off even video, even LinkedIn Live. Video was rewarded. I would say early in 2019, it was still doing, going gangbusters. Mm-hmm. But you can tell, from what I've heard and what I've seen, video now, sorry, Russ, but video has taken a little dip on the algorithm. And have you noticed that? You've been doing this how long?
Well, when I first, because I started doing video, when I first started doing video on LinkedIn, I was an early adopter, and I like landscape video. And I would turn my phone, in landscape mode.
Sure.
And I would shoot a video, and it would upload upside down. It's like, why? Come on.
I've heard of that. I've seen that.
Hello, bam.
Yeah.
And I would do that, and then I'd get frustrated, and then I would make fun of it. Actually, I made a lot of fun of it. And then I evolved into, shooting vertical video. And then I would do, then I went through the process of, doing YouTube and then uploading it and all kinds of different, just experimenting really.
Yes.
And when I first got on live, the Pirate Broadcast launched before I had live. And
okay.
So, the premise of a Pirate Broadcast is someone that is outside the boundaries of the FCC.
Right. So wait. This isn't about walking the plank? Oh, come on. Why did I?
It's a dual meaning.
Okay.
There's some innuendo there, but
yes,
the reality is that we all have an opportunity to broadcast now, and
I love that.
Need permission from a producer, a production company, or a broadcaster. In the FCC, it's all here. So a pirate broadcaster is somebody that's outside the boundaries, just like pirates, they're outside the boundaries of the typical rules.
Right.
And so I started broadcasting on YouTube, and with the logo, with LinkedIn Live logo, and then I would upload it.
Hey, that's one way to get accepted, and then you applied, right?
well, I had applied previously, and Roger Wilkerson goes, well, why would you want to be on LinkedIn Live anyway? And it's like, it's just one of those things that I feel like I'm on LinkedIn. I enjoy LinkedIn. I enjoy the community.
Right.
I've been on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all the other platforms. I've been doing this for a while now.
Sure.
And the community here on LinkedIn, I think, is I just feel more connected to it.
I have to agree. I've dabbled in so many platforms, and nothing really compares, really.
Yeah. Nothing. No, it doesn't compare. And I think to your point also is that engagement, even on what I've noticed on the LinkedIn Live,
mm-hmm.
when you go back, it's difficult to go back and work on the comments. So if you go back to the live after the broadcast, and then you have to click on comments, and then you click on more comments, and you expand your comments.
Yes.
And then when you reply, even on a large screen, the comments go past the top of the screen. So you have to scroll down to reply to your comments.
But you're talking about,
it may not make sense to some people, but what it does is it slows the comment process down.
Gotcha. Oh,
I don't know if that's by design or by accident.
And you mean when you're live, when it's live, because everything's, you see the reactions or
no,
they pop up
after the live is completed.
Really?
And I'm replying to comments. I'm going back in the broadcast and replying to comments.
Hey, let me ask you this, and I can't remember if I've seen this on LinkedIn Live, but it's a little bit of a hack on LinkedIn. And I've tested this out recently. It is still needed. By default, when you go into any post, article, you name it, the default setting for sorts on comments is top or most relevant. They've changed it now to most relevant, right? It depends on the plan. On the Android, on the app, at least, it still says top and recent. You have to change it to be recent or most recent on the browser. When you do that, sometimes the comments are missing by default when you're on the most relevant. So try that with a LinkedIn Live replay, see if that helps. And the beauty is too, at the very bottom will be the most recent one.
Yeah.
So you can then scroll back and it's at the highest thread, of course, right? It's that top thread. It's by that order.
That's brilliant advice.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I just saw it again today, and I'm like, did they finally fix this? I've been saying this for probably 3 years. Come on, really? I mean, I miss comments sometimes. I mean, I kid you not. It says you've got 30 comments or something, and you go through, and I've counted them. When they give you numbers for a while, the app and the browser would be off. One would say that the top level only, and then the other one would say the top level and the nested. Now that finally seems to be fixed. Okay, good news. But they're still off, and you go by default. And I think some of it has to do with how you get to that post or that article. If you got it from a link or versus you went to their profile, sometimes that seems to be an issue, but really it shouldn't matter. If you get to that any way you do, one of the first things, I kid you not, that I do, and I don't care for what reason, if it's my own or somebody else's, is I go to the most recent, because then I know I'm seeing everything and I'm not going to miss anything. It's the only sure way.
It would be nice if you could set the default.
Yeah. Well, and you can, in the feed, you can set the default to say, I want to see most recent posts, but then the minute you log out, you lose it. So it's one of those things that we've been talking about for years, and they never do. And I wouldn't be surprised if they just simply take it away, because it's a pain. Why am I going to sit there? And it's only I can't remember if it's on the browser and the app, I think now, but it wipes out every time, and people don't want to do that. We're creatures of habit. We don't want to have to do that every time.
I have to give them credit, because some of the apps, the app features and functionality, like the QR code and meetings and things like that.
Yes.
And the voice messaging, love it or hate it. I think it's an extension of what they're attempting to accomplish.
Yes.
With the community, and, bringing it forward and doing some things like that, which reminds me, you mentioned Steve. Steve is in the room.
Hey, Steve.
So Brenda is here. Nick Norman. Hey, Nick, how you doing? Celeste, how are you? Carl Williams, good morning. Hey, I hope you got the tutorial that I sent you and it worked out for you. Steve Sullivan, breaking new territory. Jared, way to go.
Hey, I said earlier, Steve, if you didn't catch it, I said you'd be proud.
Yes. And nice to see you on the show today by Nick. Jeff Young.
Hey, Nick. Hey, Jeff.
Oh, my gosh, it's Jared. It's the man, the myth, the legend. Nice to see you.
I'm alive, Jeff.
Yes. He does exist. He is here. We have proof. We have evidence.
We need to catch up, Jeff.
Gabriel's here. Angie, good morning. Rodrigo,
Singapore.
Yeah, Rodrigo, FYI.to.
Exactly.
Brenda, Lewis, Julio, Wendy, Seth, Vicky O'Neill, good morning. How are you? Carl, it's not as close as talking with you as I can get. It's just Ron Craig, Nick Dorsey, Ted is here.
Awesome. I saw some of these guys in our promos. They were saying, they were commenting, and I appreciate that always, and glad to see they showed up.
Well, and I think to your point is LinkedIn wants us to be willing to create a community. And when you're going after 100,000 views or 100,000 connections or followers or whatever the metric happens to be, it's really difficult to stay connected with that many.
It is.
And it's not that numbers aren't important, because I think they're a relative indicator of our activity and our interest in helping the community. I would like to think that's the case. I'm sure that there are nefarious ways to modify those numbers. However, I enjoy the community, and I enjoy this show. And the reason that I brought this together and I wanted to do this on a consistent basis is to highlight people like yourself that are doing good work, and allow people to be inspired by the fact that you're doing it. There's a way to go about it. It's just step by step.
Yeah.
How many followers did you have before you started?
Well, I really, for the longest time, and I before 2019, I really wasn't following it too much. It was always there. I seem to be kind of hovering at about 12,000 to 15,000 followers prior to the beginning of 2019. And then, as we were talking about earlier with Brenda Meller's LinkedIn Rockstars, it got me to realize when that first week that I was added on, I only had, from week to week, I only had 0.6% or whatever. And I thought, oh, interesting. So let's see what happens every week. This is interesting. This is cool. But it got me to focus, right? It got me to think about it. And I went from, if I remember right, I went from about 15,000 followers last year. By the end of the year, I was at about 71,000. So, and that largely goes back to that focus of, the LinkedIn Rockstars. But again, it's adding value. And I tell you, the biggest thing, because I get asked this once in a while, and I did an article on it, I think earlier, the biggest reason, the biggest turnaround wasn't necessarily, being on the list per se. Is how did I get on the list? How did it keep growing? The most direct answer I would have for you is at the beginning of 2019, actually, at the new year, so 2018 at the end, I just all of a sudden, I'd been doing posts and I'd been helping people on a regular basis, but I was trying to think, how can I help people more? What can I do? How can I mix this up? So a year ago, I just off the cuff, I had been talking with some other coaches, in fact, and off the cuff, I kind of realized, what? I want to do something daily. And this is a shout out to Jacqueline Way and the 365give hashtag, because that came about as a result of this as well, what I'm about to say. And that is, I wanted to do a something every day, and it turned into a profile pop-up. At first, I called it 3 free tips. That was a hashtag. And I would just kind of state, here are 3 tips with your profile or maybe with resume. But I turned it into a profile pop-up, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I took, you talked about wanting to do landscape videos. I wanted to do horizontal portrait video reviews from an app of the profile. Here's what someone's going to see on a phone. And really, this kind of gets to the essence of my brand and of my website, Profiles That Pop, that whole concept, right? You have, from research back to 2012, from the ladders, you have 7 seconds. Now, originally it was 6 seconds. So people are wondering, no, I thought it was 6. It was. In 2012, it was 6 seconds. They reconfirmed. In 2018, it's 7.4 seconds. So seconds, guys, right? It is seconds. And that's what I'm all about, is how can I quickly make an impression, quickly add value, quickly get you interested and understanding what I have to offer. Really, that's what I'm all about. So I'm going off on a tangent here a little bit, but when I did the profile pop-ups, I think that's where, the followers, I was doing them regularly, right? Doing it daily, like you're doing, right? That when you do something consistently, it's a balance. It's a mix. Can you say it's one thing? I did this one profile pop-up that had 500 views or 500 likes. I can't say that is one thing. And I don't think it is. I think it's a culmination. It's a lot of things, but it's about showing up. It's about adding value. And, and it wasn't, I kid you not, it wasn't until the end of last year. It wasn't even in a profile pop-up. I kind of took a break. I had a birthday late in the year, reflection, trying to regroup. And about the last several weeks anyway of last year, I wasn't doing profile pop-ups. I just, frankly, I was a little bit burnt out and wanted to do something a little different. But I started a different approach again, and I'm always mixing things up. I'm always trying something new. But I saw this great article, and I thought, oh, this is awesome. It was I think it was a Forbes or an Inc. article, Inc. And I just thought it was very relevant, very timely, and it had, I don't know, I forget now, 12 different tips, and I broke it up into 5 posts. And I kid you not, one of those posts got over 1,000 likes. That is my most viral post to date. So here it isn't, it isn't this thing I was doing every day. It wasn't, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever given. So, you never know. And what I love about the algorithm, I guess, love and hate, some people might say, you could have a viral quote unquote post and the next day you get nothing. And LinkedIn holds you to it, right? LinkedIn holds you to it. And I applaud that. I really do, because you've got to keep showing up. You've got to keep being consistent ultimately and do what you can. I'm not trying to say, and I can't do it myself. Hey, let me back up a second, Russ. Let me level set. I work a full-time job with an hour commute. I have a family of 4. I have side clients that are paying that I really want to help out. And then I do pro bono stuff like this on LinkedIn as much as I can, so that's my world. And it's tough. So there are times when I will do a post. Yeah, I thank you. I mean, I do what I can, and that's what I would only ask of anybody else. Do what you can when you can. One of my biggest tips, and Brenda, if you're still there, I know you would applaud this, add an insightful comment. If there's nothing else you can do, don't just say agree, love it, great. And Brenda likes to say this, make sure that comment as a guideline is at least 5 words. I would step it up and say, try to keep it 2 sentences. Give it 2 lines. But the reason being, add some value, because you'd be surprised. I saw somebody else, and I forget who it was. I didn't note it at the time, but somebody else made a comment that said, they did a post on it, I believe. Comments are like a post. It can have just as much visibility. You have a good comment, that's as good as any viral type of a post,
I've seen it happen. And sometimes, Jared, there's been opportunities where I've been triggered by a post. And my response, I have to edit it because it exceeds the comment volume that I could put in there.
I love it when that happens.
And then what then the reaction is that I get all these notifications. So and so, started on a post, commented on a post, commented on a post.
Yeah.
And it's, there's part of that is the dopamine factor of, I have to continue to do this. I have to, respond to people. Sure. And at some point in time, you can't do it all. And I think we need to be cognizant of the idea that as long as we're adding value and we're making the best effort we can, and people can reflect this. I've been doing this for a while now. You've been doing this for a long time, and people understand and appreciate that. So I thank you and applaud you for the work that you do, in addition to your family. And, and it's one of those things that when you're giving to be valuable rather than what's in it for me, people notice, people care.
Exactly. And that's what that turnaround, really, I think it came through. When I did those profile pop-ups every day, I wasn't doing it to get rich, to get a client, to do anything like that. I really genuinely wanted to help people. And I really do believe that came through. And that made the difference. People can see that. They can see that I'm adding value. They can see that I'm helping somebody out. And that was it. And I, early on too, Russ, what I looked at it as, I kind of was defining why when I was trying to think through the strategy. I want to not just help somebody, right? I answer a comment. I give a quick tip. Great, I've helped that one person. But if nobody else saw it, then I'm not helping other people. Mm-hmm. And if other people don't see it, it's not going to help me either, right? So I looked at it as a win-win-win potentially. But ultimately, it starts with the one, helping that one person. Then as the algorithm goes, right? We're all here for a reason. We all hate it those moments. Something that drives me, by the way, is you have something valuable to share and you post it, and then that dopamine kicks in and then nothing. And you're like, what? This was great, right?
Why did crickets show up?
Yeah, what happened? So from my LinkedIn banner, that's where the art and science comes in, right? It's not just all about the art and say, I've got the greatest idea ever. Come look at me. Look at what I have to say. There's some science behind it, right? So I am always testing it and trying to figure it out. But again, it's ultimately at the end of the day, it's hopefully a win-win-win. Because what is LinkedIn? It's a professional platform. We're all trying to grow, to improve, to help others. But at the same time, we're looking for something. We're out here for a reason. You got to understand what your purpose is on LinkedIn, by the way, right?
Well, speaking of purpose, I want to shift gears real quick, and thanks for that update too, because I think it's important conversation to continue to have, Jared, and I'll continue to share it on the Pirate Broadcast as well. But we talked earlier about this Ikiga.
Ikigai.
Ikigai. I knew I wasn't pronouncing that right.
It's a tough one.
So, and the concept is, and you can find this on your website, I believe.
Yes.
And so if you're not connected to Jared, go connect with Jared and follow him and, learn more about what Jared's doing. So, that's the whole purpose of what we're doing here, is to help introductions and get people.
Thank you, sir.
And so I just kind of wanted to mention this because there's a lot of people that are not fully aware of all of the potential we have as human beings.
Yes.
You're here today, you're taking your time out of your busy schedule, you're working, you have family, there's a lot of things that you could be doing, and you're here adding value to the community, and gratitude for all you do. And one of the conversations I wanted to kind of, make sure that we plant this seed with is the concept that we were talking about with this Ikiga and what it means. So we could plant the seed and then people can reach out to you and learn more about it.
Sure. Yeah. The way it's spelled, 6 letters, Ikigai. So it's a Japanese concept, and that goes to the painting here, right? The koi fish makes me think of it. So that was a great little segue, I guess. But the idea is, if you haven't done it, just do a Google search. On LinkedIn, you can do a hashtag search, Ikigai. And it's a Japanese concept, which actually I've researched a bit, and I found some Spanish origins. So it's interesting, but the Japanese made it into a lifestyle. And I've actually redid the original diagram that comes from the Spanish author. I put in there with 4 Ps. I changed up a little bit. It had, for example, the word mission. I changed that, I believe, to purpose. I forget exactly. I used to have it in a map, but to make it more memorable was one of the biggest reasons why I did it. But I also was doing it to apply to careers more specifically, because Ikigai in general, there's books about it. It's about a way of life. Okay. For the Japanese, they have the oldest living centenarians out there, right? And it's because of the way of life. They don't just retire and die. Why? They retire and they're still happy. They're still blissful. They get up, they do the same things, whether they're working or not. It's because they have this concept. But real quickly, it's 4 big circles and then the intersection of all those other circles. And at the top, I love the fact that it's at the top, it's loves. What do you love to do? Because that should be top. It should be first and foremost. What are you loving to do? And a lot of people, though, however, started off on the left side. And I don't know if this is going to be backwards here, but picture, if I go like this, it's on the left side, right? The left side is your talents. What do we do? And think of it this way from a college career perspective. Talents. We go to school. We go to university. Why? Go down to the bottom circle. Pay. What can you be paid for? We want a job. We need that job. We got to pay for the school debt, right? Then you start looking into, what does the world need? That's the whole moving up the corporate ladder thing. You want to figure out, well, how can I be paid more, even if nothing else? But then guess what happens? Typically, is this all there is? You start asking those questions, right? What do I really like this job? I'm burnt out. That goes back to the loves. So realistically, it is kind of cool the way this is set up. It starts right smack in the left center. You get talents. You figure out something that interests you, and you're good at it. You get better at it. You look for being paid. But think about this. What I really, really love the most about Ikigai is the aspect of the paradox, the 4, the fact that they intersect and they come together. You could be a starving, I'm going to the bottom now, you're not getting paid, artist who loves what they do, right? Or you could be a high school, or I should say college graduate, but you're not doing anything the world needs.
Yeah.
You've got to find that mix. And if you're really doing it well, right, you can get the intersection of everything. And that sweet spot in the middle is Ikigai. Real quickly, the 4 Ps: purpose, passion, pursuit, profession. So I'm sure I got the order wrong, but if you think about it, right, you're pursuing, I almost should say that first, because the key overall, it's not about figuring it all out and knowing and reflecting and this is it. It's more about trying things out. If there's one aspect of it I would leave you with is pursue things, try things, reflect. Is that what you like to do? But then get creative. Think about childhood. What did you love to do back then? And what were your hobbies now and back then? That's how you can start filling it out. So each of those sections, look at it in different ways. And I have some slides, essentially, I've shared at a presentation I did. Just list out for each circle, list out a whole bunch of ideas that come to mind, then look for the intersection. So your hobby could be doing video, right? I like video production, taking video of the stream and taking pictures. But now look, you look what you're doing with StreamYard and, the Pirate Broadcast. You're doing something with this. You're sharing it with the world. The world needs to see this. Now, could you get paid for it? Do you love doing it? There you go, as an example for you, right?
Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, I mean, what was your experience on signing up and actually being here?
Yeah, I'd heard about Pirate Broadcast before, and as we were sharing before the show, Russ, I at first I was like, okay, well, great. Where do I go? How do I see it? So I really hope that your listeners know that, well, I don't know, where do you want to see it? Because that's just it. You're everywhere. And eventually it hit me. I was like, wait a minute. I know I've seen this on YouTube. I know I've seen it on LinkedIn. I think he's on LinkedIn Live, but actually I remember seeing somewhere a snippet from YouTube. I went to your website. You've got that great link that I think you share, which is great because then you can see all the people in the past. I think you have some transcripts there too. And it's all sorts of good stuff. Yeah. So just explore, right? Find out various ways, but whatever your favorite platform is, I love that you cover so many ways.
Well, and right now, just as an example, and I think this is a seed that I'm planting for a lot of organizations that are not really comfortable with how to put out content, how to create content that matters. Because I think conversations like this are the most engaging and the most alive piece of the organization, any organization, whether you're an individual or a multi-billion-dollar organization. I think, and we're going to see more of it as well. And like right now, we're streaming to Periscope, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Wow. And then by the end of the day, you'll be on Spotify, you'll be on iTunes, you'll be on all of those podcast platforms. And then also the transcription of the show will be up on my blog post, which is at Russ.
That's awesome. I love that. I will often take a great podcast or a great from anybody really, but when it really resonates, one of the first things that I want to do is get a transcript. And a little hack is that I take things, and if I can get the video, I will upload it to YouTube just to get the automatic captioning, because I really like the nuggets, and I don't want to have to sit there, and I may be driving or whatever it is, right? I don't want to sit there and go through it, but I'm a bit visual in that regard, and I want to have time to take it, digest it, think of it, search on the words later, all that good stuff. So I love that you have some transcripts.
So I'm developing that a little further, and I will be offering that to other organizations that need to get their word out in other ways.
Nice. There you go. Get paid for it. Step up that Ikigai. I love it.
Yeah. So that's my implementation of Ikigai. Yeah. And I saw it actually, the first time I saw it was in a demonstration from Chris Doe from a designer perspective.
Okay.
So from a graphics design perspective, and
okay, sure,
thing kind of applies, and it's a lifestyle. So
it is.
It's like always experimenting with things and going forward.
Yeah.
So Jared, I have to ask you, if you had to leave one thing with the community today, tips, words of wisdom, advice, life lessons, what would it be?
Boy, I kind of wondered what you might ask me, tried to think things through, prepare a little bit. But you know what just came to my mind, Russ?
What's that?
If I could leave you with one thing, remember this. You've got seconds. Make them count. I don't know. That just hit me. Because boom. Yeah, just boom.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jared. Appreciate you. Thank you for everyone joining in today. I know there's so many of us that it's really a pleasure and an honor to have this as a platform to share with the community. Kindness is cool. Smiles are free.
Yes.
And you enjoy the day.
You too. Thanks, guys.